I'm going to talk about three things. And I read that if you can remember three things from this talk today in 90 days, like uber successful talk. All I got to do is to get you to walk away with three nuggets, which is so depressing in a way. But, you know, the three things that I want you to remember, first is the fabled stone soup. Second is the construction of tree forts, tree houses. And third, that we're going to colonize Mars. So how do those fit within this leadership genre? So the fable of stone soup is, does anybody know the fable stone soup? Okay, all right. Some people, yeah, all right. Where we are in the fable is we're in a village where we don't have enough to eat and people are hungry, people are starving. And an old man puts a cauldron in the middle of the village and he puts his magic ingredient and he invites everybody in the village to bring one ingredient. And they bring the ingredient. At the end of the day, they have a nice, warm, bubbling pot of soup that feeds the village. And then he says, you think you could bring that ingredient tomorrow? And people say, sure. And now they have a pot of soup in perpetuity feeding their village. And all everybody had to do was figure out their one ingredient. My take on leaders is that you are, oh, and by the way, kind of forgot the moral of the story. The ingredient he put at the bottom of the cauldron was a rock, right? And my take on leadership is you as the leader, that you are the most important ingredient in the cauldron with which is your team or your organization. And we need to make sure as leaders that we are approaching our teams from the perspective of that we are the most important ingredient, but that we need to meet our team and we need to meet our organization where it needs to be met. And that is the most difficult nuance. How do you meet your team for your team to thrive? Where do you need to be? And I'm in the middle of this, like, you know, I started as a barista in our first store, minimum wage, working open till 2 p.m. Now I'm running this thing. And this thing is not this, but this thing is, it's pretty significant, right? And the amount that I've had to grow and change to continue to try to be the leader my organization needs me to be, no one tells you everybody has opinions, but there's no definitive answer on who you need to be today when you walk into your team. That's for you to figure out. And to me, that's the hardest part of leadership. So let's talk about you as a leader. And I just want to land a couple of nuggets, sort of actionable things, I guess. And so who do you need to be to meet your team? The first thing that I believe is truly important is that as a leader, you have to cede control. And y'all are a different group, right? Like I'm not sure I've ever been in a room with this much creative in it. You are a different group, but often, and I'm sure it's a different atmosphere here, a lot more collaborative, because that's how. But in most organizations, in most teams, the leader shows up, and the idea, and you hear this all the time, is the idea is to get everybody on board. Well, getting everybody on board, there's an assumption that you're going in with the answer. And that's a flawed assumption, right? If you're walking in knowing the answer and your job is just to get everybody on board, you're leaving everybody else on the sidelines and you're walking in, and that is like, So the first thing, in my opinion, that you have to do as a leader is you have to seek control, and then you have to facilitate an environment where everybody is bringing their best, and you have to take a back seat. In fact, you have to become one of the least active people in the room, because when you weigh in, it steers the conversation automatically because you're the leader. Super hard to do. There was a QSR magazine. It's kind of the leading magazine in the quick service restaurant industry. And so I got this interview opportunity. So I'm going through this interview, and it's CEO to CEO piece. So they're doing their, so we get to the end of the interview, and the woman says, okay, so if you had one word for every CEO in America, what would it be? I said, well, can it be hyphenated? She said, sure. Shut up. I live in some of these ecosystems where there are these like CEO, support group kind of thing, like YPO and EO. And this, I just got involved in something called Tugboat, which is super cool. But anyway, like the CEOs are some of the least aware people. It's amazing, right? But I don't think that's specific to CEOs. I think it's kind of leaders in general. So seed control is my first nugget. The second nugget in terms of who you need to be as a leader is that I call it, you have to take care of each person on your team's toolbox. Everybody walks into your environment and they've got their toolbox, and they've got their tools that they're really good at using. They've got their tools that are super sharp and on point. And then they got tools that don't exist, and they got tools that are like super rusty and nasty. Your job as the leader is to get into that toolbox with them and work through those tools and figure out nobody has a full toolbox, and nobody's supposed to have a full toolbox. There isn't the perfect human being, right? So what we need to do is we need to get into that toolbox with them. We need to understand them as a human being, understand what their strengths are, so we know what they can contribute to the group, and then we need to facilitate them making that contribution. And I just love the analogy of the tools, right? But that's a lot of work. I mean, that's like getting to know your people at a super intimate level. But what we want to do as leaders is we want everybody showing up using their most powerful tools, understanding what those are, and then collaborating and coming up with amazing stuff in the world. The third, and I think maybe one of the coolest points I make during the day, is, we all know mentorship, right? Who's had a mentor in their life? Everyone. And you know who the person is. Picture who that is. How many of you have mentors that are older than you? How many of you have mentors that are younger than you? Okay, significantly less on the younger side. So we oftentimes think of mentors as people that have been around the block a few times, a few gray hairs, had the experiences. We sit down and we try to glean from them. In my opinion, that in that situation, the value to you as a leader right there is like really low. Because you walk in, and are you really opening up what your true issues are? Yeah, probably, but do you know what your true issues are? No. You don't know what your true issues are. And so what I advocate is treating your team and your people as your most powerful mentor. Because they see you in action. They know what you need. They're terrified to tell you, and they won't tell you. It'll take you a year or 2 or 3 to actually get your team opening up and giving you the real critique about your behavior and about who you are as a leader and how you can improve as a leader. But they're the people that know that stuff. Some mentor you meet with once a month and have coffee with, they don't ever see you in action. You're your best self when you're with that person because you're trying to impress them, right? You want to network. You want to tap their net. You know, it's like that really. So I had a moment with my team. Now, I had the luxury of like I've got people on my team that I've worked with for 25 years, 23 years, 21 years, right? And so like, I'm super intimate with these people, and we've built an enormous amount of trust over the decades. Well, I'm in a meeting one time, and I go into command and control mode, and it is like gross, and violent, and disgusting. And I am gonna like, I go into this mode that is when and so anyway, I don't do that anymore so much. Maybe a couple times a year now it happens. But like I used to go into it all the time. And so my friend Jeremy, who's worked with us for 23 years, he said to me at one point, he said, Mike, when this happens, like I think we should probably dive into this, you know, like, because this isn't healthy, what you're doing. And anyway, we had a long conversation about it. End result came out. It's like, when I go into command and control mode, we uncovered that I'm scared. Okay. All right, Mike, what are you scared of? Well, then we got into what I'm scared of. At the end of that path, with my 30 years of experience in the business, with everything I've done in my life, whatever we get to at the end of that path is probably something we should be paying attention to. Kind of what the team uncovered. Like if Mike's scared, there's probably nobody in the world could have helped me unearth that except for Jeremy and a few trusted people around me. Think of your people as your best mentor. Think of them as the people that can actually bring you the feedback you need for you to become better as a leader. So there's three things in this section, which is stone soup. Seek control. Climb into everybody's toolbox with them, right? Work on their tools, understand their tools, do that work. And then third, mentorship. Mentorship, right? Your people are your best mentor.